All right, let's jump right in. The big headline today, Norway locks, get this, $7 billion in war support for Ukraine. It is Saturday, January 31st, 2026. While the news cycle, spins these dizzying circles around Washington, the real story, the one that actually changes the math on the battlefield, just broke. A Scandinavian giant has just stepped into the void. Subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. I'm Alex. Join me with Arya in the latest podcast by Defense Report for a sharp, no-nonsense breakdown of the latest in global defense news, military technology, and strategic developments. And today we're going to cover, the massive news breaking out of Oslo. Norway has officially decided to allocate a staggering 85 billion kroner, that's roughly 8.4 billion US dollars, just for Ukraine in 2026.
And we should be really clear right from the top, 7 billion of that is strictly for defense. This is not humanitarian fluff, we're talking hard power.
That is the headline, but the story underneath is where it gets really complicated. We aren't just talking about a wire transfer. We're witnessing a complete rewrite of how Western nations arm Ukraine. We're going to unpack this shift from the Danish model to this new, much more aggressive Norwegian model.
It's a huge difference. It's the difference between buying weapons and, building an industrial empire. And we're going to dig into why these Nordic countries are essentially hiring the U.S. defense industry to work for them.
Yeah.
It's a way to bypass the gridlock in Washington.
Plus, we have to talk about Ukraine becoming the arsenal of the EU.
Yeah.
I mean, they aren't just receiving aid anymore. They're building a security premium that might just make them the dominant military manufacturer on the continent.
And of course, the elephant in the room, the energy truce rumors, the one swirling between Zelensky, Trump, and Putin as of, yesterday, January 30th. It's minus 16 degrees in Kiev right now. The stakes just could not be higher.
So let's not waste any time. Let's get into the dunk dive. The anchor here is that 85 billion kroner figure. It's part of the Nansen support program. For those who haven't memorized the Norwegian budget, put this into context for us. This isn't a one-off, is it?
No, and that's the critical signal to Moscow. The Nansen program has been extended to run through 2030. We're talking a total commitment of 205 billion kroner, and there's active debate in the Storting, that's the Norwegian parliament, to push that ceiling even higher, maybe to 275 billion.
That timeline is what matters. By saying through 2030, they're essentially telling Putin, you cannot wait us out. Western fatigue, that's off the table because the check's already written for the next 4 years.
Exactly. And frankly, for a country of Norway's size, 5.5 million people, this is a colossal exertion of financial weight. But we have to be honest about the economics here. There's a backdrop of war profits that kind of haunts this whole discussion.
Right, the energy crisis. When Russia invaded and, cut the gas lines to Europe, prices just went vertical. Norway stepped in, saved Europe from freezing, but they made a fortune doing it.
A fortune is putting it mildly. Norway ran a surplus of approximately $128 billion between 2022 and 2023. They were the only stable gas station left in town.
And that created a lot of bad blood, didn't it? I remember this narrative in Brussels that Norway was getting rich while the rest of the continent burned.
It was a very damaging narrative, but the government in Oslo has pivoted brilliantly. They're not framing this 85 billion kroner as charity or, guilt money. They're calling it a security premium. It's a cold, hard calculation.
The logic being that spending 85 billion now to defeat Russia and Ukraine, that's infinitely cheaper than spending, say, 500 billion later to defend their own border if Ukraine falls.
Precisely. If Russia wins, the entire security environment for Norway changes overnight. The high north becomes a front line. So this is an insurance policy for their own sovereignty. And the most surprising part, the political unity.
That stood out to me too. Here in the US or in the UK, aid packages are political footballs. In Norway,
unanimous. The Storting is completely aligned. Even the opposition Conservative Party, Ina Eriksen Søreide, they support indefinite aid. You just don't see that kind of consensus. It gives the Ukrainian general staff something they desperately need, predictability.
And predictability allows for long-term planning. Which brings us to the mechanics of this aid. This is where the deep dive really gets interesting. We keep hearing the Danish model versus the Norwegian model. To a casual observer, this just sounds like Nordics buying guns, but you're arguing this is a fundamental shift.
It's a revolution in procurement, really. Let's break down the Danish model first, because it set the stage. The old way was Denmark buys a howitzer from a factory in France, puts it on a train, ships it across 3 borders, and then hands it to Ukraine.
Slow, expensive, and subject to French manufacturing bottlenecks.
Correct. The Danish model flips the script entirely. Denmark sends the money directly to Kiev. Kyiv then pays a Ukrainian factory to build the weapon in the country.
So the capital travels, not the hardware.
And the efficiency gains are just massive. Let's look at the Bodana self-propelled howitzer. It's a NATO caliber 155mm system made right there in Ukraine. It costs about $2.5 million to produce.
Okay, $2.5 million. Compare that to the Western equivalent.
The French Caesar howitzer, very similar capability, costs roughly 4.2 million euros.
Wow. So you're getting almost two for the price of one.
And you get them faster. No shipping delay, no customs red tape. Plus, you're employing Ukrainian workers. In 2024 alone, the Danish model pumped 590 million euros straight into the local Ukrainian industry.
It's basically arbitrage. You're taking advantage of the labor market. I saw a stat that Ukrainian industrial wages are, around $529 a month?
Yeah.
You compare that to a skilled welder in Germany,
Yeah.
and the cost savings are just undeniable.
It keeps their economy on life support while arming their troops. But here's where the Norwegian model evolves the concept. The Danish model is about purchasing. The Norwegian model is about investing.
Okay, this is the venture capital angle.
Yes. Norway isn't just buying the finished product. They're allocating $400 million specifically to finance arms production capacity. They're building the factories. We're talking about joint ventures between Norwegian giants like Nammo and Kongsberg and Ukrainian state enterprises.
So they're transferring the technology, they're teaching Ukraine how to build advanced drones, electronic warfare systems, artillery at scale.
It's the teach a man to fish philosophy, but, applied to high explosives. The goal is to make Ukraine the arsenal of the EU. The long-term vision is that after the war, Ukraine isn't a dependent state. It's a major weapons exporter.
It creates this symbiotic relationship. Norway provides the capital and the high-tech IP. Ukraine provides the manufacturing base and, frankly, the combat testing.
Exactly. It's industrializing the war effort. And that is the only way you win a war of attrition against Russia. You have to outproduce them.
Speaking of production, we have to look across the Atlantic. We're a year into the Trump administration, since January 2025. America First is in full swing. We all saw that aid pause back in July for the capability review.
Which, that scared a lot of European capitals.
Right. So how does this Norwegian cash injection work with a U.S. administration that is, let's just say, skeptical of foreign handouts?
This is where you see some incredibly clever diplomatic engineering. It's called PURL, the Prioritize Ukraine Requirements List. It's a NATO initiative that basically hacks the political deadlock in Washington.
Hacks? In what way?
The mechanism is purely transactional. The United States makes the weapons, but Europe pays for them.
I see. So the factories in Pennsylvania and Alabama stay open, American workers get overtime, the U.S. defense industry posts record profits, but the bill goes to Oslo.
Exactly. It satisfies the America First economic priority. Trump can say, I'm bringing jobs back to American defense manufacturing, while Ukraine still gets the high-end gear. On December 3rd, 2025, Norway pledged $495 million to PURL.
And they weren't alone on that, were they? It was a regional thing.
It was a full Nordic-Baltic coalition. Denmark, Estonia, Finland, Iceland, all of them. They put together a $500 million package.
And what does that kind of money buy?
The stuff you can't build in a garage just yet. 155mm artillery shells from U.S. stockpiles, HIMARS missiles, guided bombs, the high-tech ordnance that Ukraine consumes at a terrifying rate.
So it insulates Ukraine aid from the U.S. Congress. As long as the check clears, the weapons flow.
And the American taxpayer isn't on the hook for a dime. It's a pragmatic solution for a polarized time.
But while the factories are churning, soldiers on the ground are freezing. We have to pivot to the tactical situation right now. Today is January 31st. Yesterday, news broke about an energy truce. What's the reality there?
The reports are flying, but we need to be really cautious. As of yesterday, Zelensky signaled he's ready for an energy truce, so stopping strikes on refineries if Moscow reciprocates, and President Trump claims he personally asked Putin to halt swings on Kyiv for 1 week.
1 week?
Oh.
In the middle of winter, that feels minimal.
It's a desperate measure. You have to understand the physical reality in Kyiv. It is minus 16 degrees Celsius.
That's bone-chilling. If the heating grid goes down at that temperature, pipes burst, buildings become uninhabitable. It's a humanitarian catastrophe within hours.
Exactly. Norway's foreign minister, Espen Barth Eide, he was very blunt about this. He called the winter bitter. That's why Norway also sent $400 million for emergency gas imports and another $100 million just for grid repairs.
So while diplomats are talking about truces, Norway is literally paying to patch the holes in the power grid.
And despite all the talk, Russian attacks on infrastructure have been brutal. They've been ongoing all week. The truce is a hope, The missiles are a reality.
And the map expands north. We focus on the Donbass, but Norway shares a direct border with Russia in the Arctic. This isn't coming from a distant benefactor.
Not at all. And it's a neighbor that is locking the door. Right now, as we speak, prep work is underway for Cold Response 2026. The main exercise starts in March, but the mobilization is happening now.
That's the major NATO exercise in the high north.
It's huge, 25,000 NATO troops. But the key number is 3,000. That's 3,000 U.S. Marines.
Having 3,000 Marines training in the snow in northern Norway. That sends a very specific message to the Northern Fleet in Murmansk.
It signals that while Norway is the banker for the war in the south, it's the fortress for NATO in the north. They are telling Moscow, we will fund your defeat in Ukraine, and if you even look north, the Marines are waiting.
It's a multi-front containment strategy. Money south, muscles north. But there's one more vector. I noticed in the research a specific allocation for Moldova. Why is Norwegian money flowing to Chisinau?
This is the connect the dots moment. You can't secure Ukraine if you leave the back door wide open. Norway is allocating 350 million kroner to Moldova this year.
That's a lot for a small nation. Is that for weapons too?
Primarily for energy diversification and fighting disinformation. Russia has used gas dependency to choke Moldova for years. They're trying to destabilize the government to open a second front.
If Moldova falls, Ukraine has to divert troops to the southwest. They get flanked.
Precisely. By propping up Moldova, getting them off Russian gas, Norway is protecting Ukraine's rear. It's a holistic view of security. You plug every single gap.
So let's step back and just look at the whole board. We're seeing a medium-sized power, Norway, using its oil revenue to do four things at once. 1, fund the U.S. defense industry. 2, jumpstart a Ukrainian military-industrial revolution. 3, secure the Arctic. And 4, stabilize Moldova.
It's a masterclass in grand strategy. They're punching way above their weight class. They're converting petrodollars into a new security architecture for all of Europe.
And it leads to a question that I think we have to leave our listeners with. A pretty provocative one.
Go for it.
We know Ukraine's domestic drone production just hit 4 million units. 4 million. Their industry capacity is reaching 34 billion euros. When you combine that sheer volume with Nordic capital and Western tech, are we witnessing the birth of Europe's new military superpower?
It's a fascinating thought. A nation forged in the fire of modern war, equipped with the most diverse arsenal on the planet, and backed by the, well, basically infinite pockets of the Norwegian Sovereign Wealth Fund.
It changes the balance of power on the continent for the next 50 years. Ukraine doesn't just survive, it becomes the shield.
And maybe the sword. It's a shift that I don't think Washington or Brussels has fully calculated yet. But Oslo has.
That is a reality check worth considering. You've been listening to Defense Report by Alex and Arya, where we analyze the latest in military strategy, global defense, and advanced weaponry. Subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. We'll catch you next time.